Hello and welcome to another purveyor of Lightroom quick tip. Today we've got another beginner's tip. Today we're going to be covering white balance. Not an incredibly sexy subject, but boy is it important. In fact, it should be the number one thing on your mind when you post-develop any image, is the white balance of the image. And it's really not understood by a lot of people. And so I'm going to hopefully cover it and, remove some of the misconceptions and understandings about white balance and why it's so important. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do is I want to just turn around and go into the develop module here. And pick this image here, and you'll see what's wrong with this image. It's got a tremendous yellow cast to it. Okay, now the yellow cast is caused by those sulfur lights that are up in this work area, and they shine, and the camera just doesn't know what to do, how to balance the light. Okay, and so that's why we have the ability to do white balance. Now over here on the right, okay, where you got the basic panel, okay, the first object you'll see is white balance, WB, and we have a drop down, okay, and we could pull down and you'll see I have auto, daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten, fluorescent, flash, and even the ability to do custom. Okay, and you'll notice the temperature, okay, I can turn around and change the temperature, which is currently at 3600, but I can change the temperature of this picture. Okay, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, is what does this number mean, what does this tint mean, and so forth. So that's what we're going to go ahead and clarify for everybody. So I'm going to reset the image now. Well, I'm just going to go back to another image in the collection here, and I just want to explain. The first off is the temperature, right? We call it in the picture. It's all in what's called Kelvin scale. Okay, why? Well, because it sounds pretty fancy, doesn't it? Actually, it was designed by engineers to measure absolute zero in stuff, and by some set of standards. And photographers picked it up as a way of color of light. Okay, so you'll notice that a 1000K is very red or yellowish. If you were on candlelight at 2000 Kelvin, it'd be a very yellow, orangey light. And as we go up, the light changes. When we reach 5000 Kelvin, we're what's considered sunlight, and then we go up from there, cloudy sky, and then all the way up to 10,000 on the scale. Okay, so the light becomes more and more blue. Now, as many of us have been doing for years now, we've been replacing all our old incandescent light bulbs with LED and our phones, and you're starting to hear the term blue light. Blue light. You're getting too much blue light. It's not natural. It doesn't look right. This is why. So you notice 10,000 Kelvin, 7,000 Kelvin, it's blue. Okay, so that's why. So this is a standard scale, and photography, they have standardized on using white balance, flashes, light, and all that in the Kelvin scale. Okay, so hopefully that makes pretty much sense to you. The other way of looking at it is this way here. Again, it's just another way of looking at it, but you'll see the different Kelvin scales, and you'll notice how the color of light changes based on the Kelvin rating of the light bulb. All right, and again, a pure white is 5,000, right? That's considered a daylight, and then we get lighter and lighter, and you notice we start getting an influence of blue as we go up on the scale. Okay, and a lot of people, if they buy the wrong LED bulb, for their house, they complain that it's too bright, it's too blue of a light, etc., etc. So this will hopefully give you an understanding of what Kelvin is. All right, so let's get back at it. So we'll go back into the grid here, and I have a couple images here, but you'll see we're going to use white balance within Lightroom and how to work with it. So we go to Develop Module. Here's a picture, and you go, this one's definitely yellowish. It's got a color tinge to it. It doesn't look right at all. So I have the ability to go in, and what happened? I don't have all those choices. Okay? I only have two, auto and custom. What happened to all that daylight, nighttime, tungsten, and all those choices I had on the other image? Well, let's go back and take a look here. All right? So if I go to this image and I go into the Develop Module, look, I got all these choices under white balance. I can do daylight, cloudy, shade, everything. Why don't I have them on the other image? Okay? This gets a lot of people very frustrated. Okay? Well, let's find out if we can figure it out. Oh, I see what it is. This first image is a JPG. The other file is a RAW file. Okay? CR2, so it's a Canon RAW file. So that's lesson number one about dealing with white balances. When you're shooting pictures, okay, you want to shoot in RAW. Okay, RAW format as it is. Think of it as a digital negative, meaning an unprocessed picture. This way you have the most flexibility to control your post-processing. Okay, whereas if I use with the JPEG, I'm very restricted. I can do auto, or I'm just going to have to take everything into my own hands. So if I have RAW, I have a lot more choice and presets available to me. So that's one of the many reasons why we recommend that you shoot in RAW. But okay, either way we can adjust the white balances, all right? But one is more flexible, one is kind of like baked hard into the image. So this JPEG is already baked, as we say. In other words, when you took the picture with the camera's computer chip said, this is the white balance, this is how we compress it, and boom, we save it as a JPEG and we throw out all the other information. And that's why it's so destructive, and I don't recommend anybody shoot in JPEG. Okay, I always recommend shoot in RAW, and then we have the full flexibility when we work within Lightroom or Photoshop. All right, so here we go. What can we do? We've got the basic panel here, and we've got our white balance, and we can choose auto. And that helped a little bit, but it didn't do very good. Or we could turn around and do custom. So reset the image. We also have an eyedropper here. Now this can be a good way of doing things, okay, if your image lends itself to it. It's the ability to turn around and select areas of the image using neutral colors. And what do I mean by neutral colors? It means colors that don't have color. And as an oxymoron as that sounds, basically neutral. If you've been around a long time, you've probably heard of a term, gray card, okay? So I'm just going to open up the gray card here. This is a sample of a gray card that you would normally buy. And the old photographers used to turn around and hand this gray card to their subject. And they would shoot one picture with them holding this card. And in this way, the photographer, when he developed the image, they would know what the proper exposure and white balance would be for the image. So if I turn around and I just hover over the image here, I'm going to go into the Develop module. And I'm just going to show you here. I use a white balance, and I'm just going to select over that. You could see, if you're looking at it, wherever I move the cursor, I'm getting a grid, and then you're seeing those RGB values down at the bottom. And you're seeing right there, it's saying RGB is 60, 60, 60, right? If I go over to the white, I'm getting 98, 98, 98. If I go to the black, I'm going 43, 43, 14, 14, right? This is what helped us set the white balance in the old days. Okay, but nobody walks around with a white balance card in their pocket anymore. And so the technology is still there, but like I said, nobody shoots with a white balance gray card anymore. But so what do? Well, we just turn around and we'll come in here and we will use our knowledge of it, a neutral color, neutral gray, right? Or something white that has no color. We want to use those as an example. So I click the eyedropper, okay, and now no matter where I point, I can sample on it. So if I come up here and I click, did you see the picture changes color cast? I'll change it again. And see how the white balance is changing based on me selecting a neutral color? Okay? So that can be a real big help when you don't have the ability. You can look for something that is either white or neutral gray. And if your image adapts itself to that, you can white balance the image there before. So if I do the before, look how yellow cast it was. And if I do the after, you can see how we have neutralized the white balance. All right? So very, very, very handy. All right, so reset the image. We'll go back to the library. And so now the other way to deal with this is to go in and use those presets. So here's that raw file, okay, because it's a CR2. And I can come in on the white balance, and instead of having to use the dropper, I could go auto, and you see how that improved it. Daylight, that didn't work. Cloudy, but I can go through these presets, okay, tungsten, okay, and you see how much better that makes it when I got the proper lighting. So in other words, I'm using these presets based on the lighting that was on this particular shooting condition, okay? So tungsten is working out nice. Fluorescent doesn't work out fluorescent because these aren't fluorescents. So therefore, they still have a yellow tinge to them, all right? And there's the flash. That doesn't work out. The only thing that works is the tungsten lighting, okay? Now, when I was there, I know these columns were white, and you can see how much they are. So if I go before, you can see the yellow cast that is so much put onto the image. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the idea now. So now I have the last option in Lightroom, and that is to do things totally custom manually. And to do that, I have to use the temperature slider and the tint slider. So remember I said about the temperature, right? The higher the number, the more blue the light, right? The lower the number, candlelight being very low, 2000s, and the numbers going up. So if I'm going to reset this image, and I go, and if I move it to the left, what am I doing? I'm taking the temperature down of the image, and you can see the effect. If I go to the right, you could see how much of an effect. Here I am at this level for 14,000 Kelvin, right? Remember, we're dealing with Kelvins. And then I can take tints, and I can move the tints left and right to remove any color casts in the image. All right? So let me reset this. Now, I'm going to go in here and we'll select another image. We'll come in and we'll do this one here and go to the develop module. And the first thing, you can look at this photo and go, this photo is not right. It's the color balance is completely wrong. So I could come in and I could say, what do I want to do? Do I want to warm it up? Do I want to cool it down? So I could warm it up. Look what I can do to this image. Now I could take a color cast and remove the color cast, right? And what a difference I make on the image, right? Before and after. Again, so white balance is incredibly important, all right? And you'll find out through experience that you won't be using the presets and the auto settings and everything, because you'll look at your own images and you'll have a vision, right? Because you took the photo. You know what the conditions really were, And you also look at the image and you're going, what am I trying to achieve in a look? So that's why these sliders are very, very important. So, and again, I have all these options. I could go auto. I could turn around and come in and do daylight. And we can see how that changes, and the cloudy. And we could come in and do shade, right? Now, these are not going to work, right? Because look what this did here, tungsten. We weren't under tungsten lighting, okay? But you can see what a dramatic effect it puts on the image, all right? And that's what I want to convey to you, okay? White balance is number one on your post-processing. It should be the first thing you address before you do any other settings on your photo, okay? Doesn't matter if it's a landscape, a portrait, whatever, your white balance is the most important setting to get right. Now, here's the part that I'm going to probably upset some people. What's the correct white balance? What should it be? What should this be? The answer is, there is no correct answer. The white balance should be what your vision is for the photo. If you're trying to reproduce the conditions that you were under, well, then you follow the rules of what lighting was there at the time, and you could just simply select, okay, and say, okay, yeah, it was under tungsten lighting. And you can say, there you go, that's what it was like, really. But so many times we're going to turn around and say, no, it's not my vision for the image. I want it a little bit warmer. I want to take the tint out, or I want to tint it a little bit more. And again, this is your images here. Look, before and the after. This sets the foundation for your image. Okay? One last tip, all right, is these little sliders here and your control panel. Sometimes they can be hard to, if you were looking for a precise movement, sometimes it's hard to move. If you want to make it a little easier and more precise to move the sliders, come over here to your panel and slide it out. Now you have sliders that are much longer and much more precise. So you could turn around and move your sliders in much finer increments by doing this. Okay? So that is, in a nutshell, white balance. Okay? So hopefully you found this useful. Until next week, you guys take care.